Yes.
Theory guy?
This is
Talking
not
about
even
how the Earth
conspiracy.
is flat.
Yeah, no, the Earth is flat.
Oh, here we go.
The Earth is flat.
Come on, give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. You're not doing your research. It's difficult to have a discussion with someone who has no information. You don't have any information. I have all the research, but I'm doing your job for you. And you're making it difficult to have a discussion because I'm not leaving. I'm doing my research.
This world is very different from what most people think it is. There are very powerful people who essentially rule this world. In my opinion, the Big Bang theory and the theory of evolution and the Ball Earth theory are all interlinked, and they're all there to make us feel as though we're insignificant. We're small, tiny,
miniature,
unimportant pieces of slime crawling around on a speck of dust in an infinite universe. If that's true, and there's no purpose, there's no meaning to anything, then our owners can do whatever they want with us. Then, this is all accidental, so food can be genetically modified because it's imperfect. We can be modified because we're imperfect.
Whether at sea level, the top of Mount Everest, or flying 100,000 feet in the air, the always horizontal horizon line always rises up to meet the eye level of the observer and remains perfectly flat. If the Earth were actually a big ball, however, the horizon should sink as you ascend, not rise to your eye level, and it would dip at each end of your periphery, not remain flat all around. Standing in a rising balloon, you would have to look downwards to the horizon. The highest point of the ball Earth would be directly beneath you and declining on each side. Amateurs have sent balloons to heights of over 121,000 feet, and you can watch video online of the horizon rising with the camera level and remaining perfectly flat 360 degrees around.
In a plane there is an artificial horizon, okay, and it's based on a gyroscope. And if you spin a gyroscope on a surface, it will want to stay upright. You can twist and tilt the surface as much as you like, the gyroscope will stay upright. So if a plane has a gyroscope and it starts following the curve of the Earth, the gyroscope would stay upright, which means the artificial horizon will start to roll backwards. But it doesn't. That's absolute proof that a plane flies over a flat surface rather than a curved one. Now you can actually measure the temperature of the moonlight next to the temperature of the shade of the moonlight, and you'll find the moonlight is colder than the shade, the opposite from the sun. So the moon is throwing out its own light, and that light is the opposite from the sun. Now that tells you that it's not reflecting the sun's light. It's producing its own, and its light is different from the sun's.
It is part of the natural physics of water and other fluids to always find their level and remain flat. If disturbed in any way, motion ensues until the flat level is resumed. Samuel Robotham wrote, "A boat with a flagstaff, the top of the flag 5 feet above the surface of the water, was directed to sail from a place called Welch's Dam, a well-known ferry passage, to another called Welney Bridge. These 2 points are 6 statute miles apart. The author, with a good telescope, went into the water, and with the eye about 8 inches above the surface, observed the receding boat during the whole period required to sail to Welney Bridge. The flag and the boat were distinctly visible throughout the whole distance. There could be no mistake as to the distance passed over, as the man in charge of the boat had instructions to lift one of his oars to the top of the arch the moment he reached the bridge. The experiment commenced about 3 o'clock in the afternoon of a summer's day, and the sun was shining brightly and nearly behind or against the boat during the whole of its passage. Every necessary condition had been fulfilled, and the result was to the last degree definite and satisfactory. The conclusion was unavoidable, that the surface of the water for a length of 6 miles did not, to any appreciable extent, decline or curvate downwards from the line of sight."
Video from what they call the Galileo space probe as it left Earth, it took a series of shots of Earth apparently, and you see that over the course of 25 hours the clouds never move. Okay, now I happened to find some pictures of satellite pictures of Earth, and I noticed that in these separately taken satellite shots, the clouds were exactly the same as the ones in the in this Galileo shot. So it's a cloud map, and download one of their photos of the Earth in the moon sky and put it in Photoshop. Okay, drop the saturation and the levels down. You'll see that the Earth has been pasted in, because you'll see a rectangular box around the Earth. It's all fraud, it's all fake. There's a place in Bolivia called Salar de Uyuni, which is a salt flat. It's literally 100 miles wide one way and 80 miles across, and it's perfectly flat. When it rains, literally you get an inch of water, and it looks like a perfect mirror. Now, how does that happen on a sphere? Yeah, it shows you that, you know, if you're one end of this salt flat, you can see perfectly clearly the other end 100 miles away.
Not only this, but viewed from a ball Earth, Polaris, situated almost straight over the North Pole, should not be visible anywhere in the southern hemisphere. For Polaris to be seen from the southern hemisphere of a globular Earth, the observer would have to be somehow looking through the globe, and miles of land and sea would have to be transparent. Polaris can be seen, however, up to approximately 23.5 degrees south latitude. Dr. Robotham wrote, "If the Earth is a sphere and the pole star hangs over the northern axis, it would be impossible to see it for a single degree beyond the equator, or 90 degrees from the pole."
These images of Earth, including the one they called the Big Blue Marble, which was released in 2002, I think. Again, when you zoom into it with Photoshop, you'll see where they've used the clone tool in Photoshop of the clouds and stamp it in various places around the picture. Photoshopped the word sex in the clouds, which is a subliminal tool they use to get people to sort of relate to something. They literally, you can look at this and...
The Earth and the water is completely flat, as far as we can see and as far as we've measured. And the horizon is completely flat, as far up as we go. All amateur rockets and all amateur balloons sent up over 20 miles, as high as they can go. The horizon is flat all the way around, and it rises to the camera all the way up. It rises to the level of the camera. This is totally impossible on a ball.